Needle. Needle gameplay refers to precision-based levels mainly focused on avoiding spikes. This was first popularized by the level I Wanna Be the Guy, a former rated top 1. However, RobTop later on felt bad about his decision and decided to unrate the level. He then changed his mind yet again after running a poll on whether or not the level should stay rated. One final thing to note is that most Needle levels primarily use the robot, as you have the most control of your jump height compared to any other game mode, allowing for a wide variety of challenging obstacles. Diagonal. The diagonal usually consists of one right side up spike and one upside down spike inside a narrow hallway. The name comes from the arc you have to jump with to dodge the back-to-back spikes. These jumps become trickier when the ground spike is surrounded by ceiling spikes on both sides, as there's enough space for you to feel like you gain a sudden speed boost after holding right long enough, but not quite enough room to benefit from it. Instead, this sudden increase will most likely land you right inside the upcoming spike. Corner jump. The corner jump is the simplest jump in platformers that exploit spike hitboxes. As these hitboxes are usually smaller than what the spikes visually look like, you can safely stand inside of them. So when a spike is on top of a block, you can actually jump on the corner of the block without dying. However, the smaller the spike is, the less room you have for a corner jump, with a mini spike corner jump being more than 3 times as precise as a normal one. In-betweens. An in-between, as the name implies, is where you can jump or land in the middle of 2 spikes that are right next to each other because of their hitboxes. However, RobTop was known to dislike in-betweens and corner jumps, even asking the community to stop making demons where you stand inside spikes back in August of 2024.
Uber Gamer.
Uber Gamers was first coined by RobTop and synonymous with top players who play Needle levels. After the pushback he received after requesting the community to match up the gameplay of demons with the spike visuals, he commented, "Guess I touched a nerve with the Uber Gamers who like standing inside spikes." Yeah, I don't know what this deal was. Anyways, RobTop eventually caved in and rated a bunch of Needle levels such as Void World, which features all of the jumps mentioned so far. Bunny hop. A bunny hop, often shortened to B-hop, is when you buffer or hold the jump key to instantly jump upon landing. Doing a bunny hop has the additional effect of increasing your jump height by a tiny amount. In the level Schmooth City, if you jump here without B-hopping, you're stuck with the bottom route. However, B-hopping grants you enough height to land on the top route, which is also necessary for the speedrun coin. Corner correction. Corner corrections occur when you hit the very edge of the block, causing the game to adjust your position. For example, when jumping from below, instead of falling, you can be shifted upwards. Corner corrections work in every direction, which means they can also push you off a block. I also hate them. Orb boosting. Orb boosting, also called orb maxing, is a tech or technique where if you jump to an orb, click it without letting go of your first jump press, the speed of your current jump greatly increases, allowing you to reach further heights than usual. This is especially useful in speedrun levels like Reacts and Meltdown, where the leaderboard mod revnotruv used orb boosting on this red orb to save around half of a second. The lower you orb boost from the ground, the greater your boost is. So in a level like Sewer Temple, where a pink orb is attached to you, orb boosting covers a similar amount of distance as using a 1 red orb. As you need 2 jump keys for this tech, any 1-player platformers that require orb boosting is impossible on mobile, which in turn means that levels requiring this tech won't be rated by RobTop. Coyote time. Coyote time was first introduced in version 2.201 and refers to the brief window you can jump after walking off a block. In update 2.202, the amount of Coyote time was nerfed to only a 20th of a second. Unlike bunny hops and orb boosting, this does not exist in classic mode. This is used for levels such as Intervallum, where the ascending wood section requires several Coyote jumps as there's often a ceiling above you, and most infamously in Claustrophobia, where you had to perform late Coyotes, specifically on the last 80th of a second possible, 4 times in a row. You could Coyote with any game mode, and yes, that includes the spider. At the end of the level's slope, after flipping as the spider, you land on the ceiling that's also instantly removed by this portal, causing you to fall into some spikes. However, by using Coyote time, you can comfortably make it down after the ceiling disappears. It is also worth noting that there is no Coyote time granted after walking off of slopes. Fast turnaround. A fast turnaround is a tech that was first precisely documented by Ekisacik. Before turning around, by letting go of all your directions or neutraling first and then swapping directions, you do so faster than if you immediately hold the opposite direction. This is especially useful in a level like Convolution, where ascending the tower portions is made easier through fast turnarounds. An interesting thing to note is that the faster the player speed is, the more effective the turnaround is. In the speedrun level Heavenly Echo, a slow turnaround takes around 3 blocks, whereas a fast turnaround only takes 1 block of distance, saving you time. Slope boosting. Slope boosting is a tech where by moving downhill, jumping, and then swapping directions, you maintain all momentum. If you don't jump opposite the slope, the game pushes you towards the bottom of the slope, even after you leave the ground. The first level to introduce slope boosting was Speed Tech, with a hill you had to slope boost upwards at the start of the level. However, slope boosting got further popularized due to Ekisacik and Galvatron's work on Terminal Heaven. Currently, leaderboard mod Cucu is the best slope player, having beaten Exaltation Deathless. Cucu also contributed to the 3 hardest coins, being Moongrinder Collectathon, Zenith of the Sky Deathless, and Feverish Dream Nightmare mode, which all require slope boosting, having verified the latter 2, and funnily enough only collecting the Moongrinder slope boosting collectible during their completion of said level. Ice slope boosting. Ice slope boosting refers to a tech in levels where you start running downhill as you collide with an ice slope. This makes you move backwards, which is sometimes the only way to scale or speed up on said slopes. Info label is a setting that users can activate to make various jumps more consistent. It reports stats such as the level ID, your attempt count and gravity value, but most importantly, your X and Y coordinates. Autumn first used it to determine a setup she could use while practicing Scarlet Basement Deathless. Usually, a setup involves visually positioning yourself before making further inputs. However, by moving to X coordinate 727, instead of making micro adjustments, she could learn the exact muscle memory for an upcoming jump. Later on, people realised that it was also useful for lineups, where in the past, players visually gauged if it was safe for them to directly jump up and through some spikes. The use of info label on Ayumi's claustrophobia and Guran's unnerved exorcist completions made people realise just how valuable it was. In fact, info label was used in the best fluke in platformer mode. After reaching 59% on convolution for the second time, revnotruv made it to the last platform. All he had to do was walk to X coordinate 3023 and then jump to the end of the level. Pemans is a shortened version of the term platformer demon, the first rated one being jet lag by Disp. However, platformer players feel the Peman difficulty is so overrated compared to their classic counterparts. However, it could be argued that this perspective comes from the fact that most top players have had years of experience in other platformers before 2.2 was even released. Peman list. The Peman list is a ranking of the top 150 hardest rated platformers. Anything beyond 150 is part of the legacy list and maintains a number based off of when they fell into said list. While levels deemed difficult enough are moved back up into the main list, any unplaced levels that have legacy range difficulty aren't even added at all. This is why there are levels not listed on the website that are harder than demons that exist in the above 150 range. The platformer list. Like the Peman list, the platformer list, or TPL, also ranks the hardest levels. However, where it differs is that it only lists the top 100 platformer levels before the legacy list starts, and it includes both unrated and rated levels. Because of the existence of both lists, the term top 1 in platformers is somewhat ambiguous, since it can either refer to the rated top 1 diamonds for dashers, or the unrated top 1 to level climb. However, the rate in which RobTop rates Pemans nowadays doesn't keep up with the difficulty progression of the game, so most people account for unrated level completions when talking about the best platformer players. Only 2 players, Azurian and Aibyou, have beaten the entire list, which was part of a friendly rivalry to see who could do it first. On February 4th, 2024, Aibyou won by a mere 3 hours by beating Azurus, a top 3 at the time. Platformer coin list. The platformer coin list was first created by SuperLobster and is now owned by leaderboard mod revnotruv. It ranks the hardest silver coins in the game. Initially, rankings were based off of how hard it was to have the coin added to your account. Due to this, even though Chromaside gives you the coin with no extra effort, the coin was previously placed as the hardest coin because you had to beat an insane demon at the time. This was clearly a bad idea, so now the list ranks how much difficulty the coin adds to the original level. Since minigames reflect a wide variety of skill sets, an unordered checklist is used for those coins. While Deffold has more of the hard minigame coins, revnotruv has the most coins found in traditional platformers, even surpassing Lutz on December 2024. revnotruv's 2 most major roadblocks for max coins are the top 1 coin, Feverish Dream Nightmare mode, and some retro gaming, as they are still missing both the Tetris Grandmaster and Tetris and GD coins. Platformer rank. Platformer rank is a ranking created by SuperLobster that ranks players solely on their top 10 hardest completions, and unlike other lists, the lower your score, the higher ranks you are. It also places levels from the Peman list, Deathless challenges, both silver and bronze coins, and various other achievements, with an equivalent placement of some TPL level based on placements in other lists and general player opinion. For example, both Null Deathless and Convolution are placed at number 7. Platformer rank originally started out with SuperLobster asking random players if they wanted to be ranked by him. The system and formula that was later refined by Lolez was so appealing that the top platformer community nowadays use it to determine who the best players really are. A perfect score on platformer rank refers to having the top 10 achievements on it as your top 10 hardest, with Gitos becoming the first ever person to do so after being fluorescence. Checkpoints are respawn locations in platformers. Unlike Classic, where you have to beat the entire level in one go, after either an R key press or a death, you start from the last checkpoint you activated. While most checkpoints can be used once, some checkpoints can be used multiple times. However, once you leave the level, all your progress resets. This is an issue for longer levels, as players don't have access to the entire rest of the game unless they decide to exit and lose all their progress on the level they're playing. RobTop even commented in January 2024 on Le Chateau Magique that they wanted to add checkpoints that save upon exit. Platformer saves. The Platformer saves mod allows you to return to your last checkpoint between gameplay sessions. However, as there's a few bugs causing levels to behave differently while using the mod, and any time you spend practicing between checkpoints isn't consistently added to your final completion time, RobTop and the leaderboard mods deemed platformer saves a bannable offense. However, as of recording the script, it's still not in the game, contributing to former top players like SuperLobster and Ekisacik quitting competitive play entirely. The player most screwed by the lack of checkpoint saving is Deffold on our platform list, the hardest mega collab in platform mode and a top 10. They had 4 separate crashes, all of which were several hours in. Later on, the author made a special version for them where they could start from where they crashed at. They waited to the exact time the crash occurred before continuing the level, and their completion was eventually accepted by the leaderboard mods. However, all the ranking lists rejected the record since it'd lead to too much of a logistics issue, accepting or denying special versions made for a specific person, even though Deffold spent 90 hours in total on the level. Oh my god. None of this would have been an issue if RobTop just added checkpoint saving. It's been 23 months, bro, please. Clipping. Clipping can occur when a wall spawns on top of you. The game then ejects you somewhere outside the wall's hitbox, often, but not always, on its left side. You can also clip between two slopes when their corners are touching. Depending on your inputs, you can either clip into your demise or make it to the next part of a level. While lesser known ways to clip are possible, that would take way too long to explain in the context of this video, but something like this can happen. Moon grinding. Moon grinding refers to beating as many rated platformer levels as possible. In the early days, Free Solo was the rated top one, and RobTop refused to rate other top levels. This caused a several way tie for max moons. However, after the rate of unnerved Ekisacik, which was then followed up by RobTop rating several difficult levels for his uber gamer audience, no one had max moons until Lutz beat Convolution in January 11th, 2025. Fast forwarding to the present day, dashing is now the #1 moon grinder and is only missing Dusty Travel and I'm on a Platformer list, as they are both extremely long levels that require a ton of endurance. Wave dash. Wave dash, a mechanic brought over from the Celeste community, also refers to propelling yourself diagonally into the ground with a dash orb, so that you can keep its speed while performing your next grounded action, such as jumping. Qalli first popularized this type of gameplay with Chromaside, which also has sections where you chain multiple wave dashes in a row. Jetpack. Jetpack is the platformer version of ship. However, unlike classic mode, the jetpack's gravity is much lighter, and its upwards acceleration is slightly faster. Therefore, compared to the ship, you need to both space out your clicks more and hold jump for less time to straight fly consistently. We usually make new style content, but let us know if you want more platform explain videos. Also, make sure to subscribe so we can hit 2K by the end of the year.